Thank you for joining me for another episode of the Nursing Strategies for Success podcast with this week's guest, Kirby Williams. Kirby is a nurse practitioner who obtained psychiatric training and education from University of Virginia. Her passion for mentoring and teaching psychiatric nurse practitioners was the fuel to starting her professional development services for new grad and novice psychiatric nurse practitioners through her company, the PMHNP Source LLC, where she currently provides one-to-one consultation services to help empower, guide, and support their career journey. So let's welcome Kirby to the show. Welcome to the Nursing Strategies for Success podcast, brought to you by The Nurse Speak, a show where we rally some of our nation's greatest nurse leaders, educators, experts, and advocates to tackle some of our greatest challenges that the nursing profession faces. My name is Damian Jenkins, and I'm your host for this show. So sit back, relax, and get ready to learn that nurses can do anything. Okay, Kirby, thank you so much for joining me on the Nursing Strategies for Success podcast. Why don't you just take a moment and introduce yourself to the listeners, let them know a little bit about yourself, where you started in nursing and where you are today.
Awesome. Hello, everyone. I am Kirby Williams. I am a psychiatric nurse practitioner, and I have been a psychiatric nurse practitioner now for 12 years.
Wow.
My journey started in nursing, very different from where I am now, but my journey actually started in a level 1 trauma center as a new grad on it's a med surge floor, but it was focused on trauma in Phoenix, Arizona.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where my career started, in the desert.
Awesome. In the desert. Okay.
In the desert.
Right. And all right. So you started off in kind of a med surge trauma setting. And then how many years did you do that?
So that hospital specifically was about 2.5 years, and I did a little traveling. So this was back when, traveling wasn't so hot as it is now, but this was back in 2008.
Okay. Awesome.
I was a travel nurse, and I got myself to the East Coast with that, with the travel assignment, and stayed on the East Coast. And so all of my RN years altogether was about 5.5 years.
Okay. And then so 5.5 years of registered nursing, including traveling. So what made you decide you wanted to pursue your nurse practitioner?
Yeah. And it was funny because in the beginning, I was like, I don't want to go back to nursing school. It's traumatizing.
Yeah, nobody wants to go back, right?
I know.
Of course. Right.
I was like, oh my gosh, it's so traumatized. I know people asked me like 2 years out, and I was like, no, I'm really okay.
Right.
I've had enough distress and make sure you're at clinical at 6 a.m. trauma that I was like, I'm all right.
Right.
But something that I really did notice as I continued to do work in a lot of the units and floors that I worked on as a registered nurse was a lot of lack of mental health care, mental health kind of provision, so to speak, especially when I started. I was telling you about that med surge trauma unit.
Right.
Now, I haven't been to Phoenix in a very long time, but at that time, like our floor itself, we would have like the most traumatic car, motorcycle accidents, and they were very young persons. I would say people under 30 and losing limbs and having very traumatic and dramatic injuries that were life-changing and life-altering.
Right.
And they did not have any, mental health support like during the time they were with us, because a lot of times they were there for maybe 30 days. I know people don't stay in the hospital that long now, but they were a long time they were with us. And then even like afterwards, it was like, all right, well, then you follow up with the surgeon, you got your follow-up with this person and that person. And I was always thinking like, this person's like 26. He used to be a basketball star. Now they just lost a limb.
Yeah.
Like, whoa. Just trying to think, like, just trying to get that in my own, like, wow, like what? Something is missing. Something's going to be missing for this person on their healing journey, whatever it may look like for them. And so that's what kind of, started me thinking about like, wow, if I did go back, If at the
Mhm.
time, if I did go back,
Yeah, big fat
you know,
if at that point,
yeah,
right? Yeah.
if I did go back, maybe I would, lean towards that, lean towards, could I work in mental health along the lines of trauma, like what I was, seeing in that first RN position, because that was what I was seeing and what really like stuck with me. And I, saw that in different iterations at other hospitals as well that weren't just the hospital in Phoenix, Arizona. But that's what I was kind of thinking about. Is there a way to kind of put that together? Like, I got experience in trauma and med surg and physical health, plus, adding to that wealth of knowledge by getting more information and education and experience in mental health. Like, could I really like put those two together? That was my ideal job, I think, at that time, what I was kind of thinking about that led me
Yeah.
to nurse practitioner school.
Right. And that's so important because I've been the RN caring for the exact patient that you just described, 26-year-old,
Mm-hmm.
traumatic injury,
Mm-hmm.
paralyzed, permanently disfigured, non-sexual for the rest of their life, whatever the issue may be for that person.
Yeah.
And I get them angry
Mm-hmm.
and I get them abusive towards others and I
Mm-hmm.
get them really having a hard time processing where they are,
Mm-hmm.
just and no support, really no
Yeah.
support.
Mm-hmm.
And I tried my best to provide that mental support. But as
Mm-hmm.
we know, bedside nurses are tasked with so many things to do. We can't
Yeah.
really lean into the mental
Mm-hmm.
wellness as much as we would like to
Right.
be there for our clients or our patients
Mm-hmm.
to the extent that they need when they're grieving.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
When it's
So
going up against this transition. Yeah.
yeah. So kudos to you for identifying that gap in care, and
Mm-hmm.
it still exists. So
Yeah. Right. It
we
does.
still need a lot more mental health nurse practitioners out there. Trust and
Mm-hmm.
believe. Of
Mm-hmm.
course, getting institutions to invest in hiring those
Right.
mental health practitioners is a whole nother podcast episode that I don't think we'll get into.
You said a whole nother episode. Yeah. Yeah.
a
I
whole,
got you.
a whole nother episode.
Right.
But awesome. So great. So you decided I'm going to go back to nurse practitioner school, and
Yes.
you
I'm going
did.
back to nursing school.
There you go. I'm so sorry, but also thank you because we need you, right?
Right. Right.
Many
Yes.
of us are on the same kind of, fence. Like, do we go back? We know we
Mm-hmm.
can make more impact if we get more certifications, more
Mm-hmm.
degrees, more knowledge. We know we can, but
Right.
it's always the process of getting there is kind of
Mm-hmm.
daunting, and it's just like I've
Yeah.
been toying with the idea of a doctorate for many years now, and maybe
Ooh.
maybe one day I'll do it. I don't know.
Right. Right.
We'll see.
Right.
Awesome. So let's talk about the thing, right? You identified a gap
Yeah.
in patient care, which led you
Mm-hmm.
to become, on a track towards getting your nurse practitioner
Mm-hmm.
and specializing in mental health. So other than seeing that gap, what is the thing that you see that's plaguing nursing as a profession as
Mm-hmm.
a whole that
Yeah.
you have pivoted yourself to be a resource or try to find solution for that? What is that thing?
Yeah, so that is my business, the PMHNP Source.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a business that provides PMHNP education and professional development and support for new to practice, new grad psychiatric nurse practitioners. So
Nice.
once I did go back to school,
Mm-hmm.
as we talked about, I went back to nursing school,
Mm-hmm.
got my degree, got a really good I loved my school. I got a really good education, really supportive faculty. I had really great clinical experiences, all the things. So,
Mm-hmm.
I was, really happy about the experience that I got in the
Good.
second go round of nursing school.
Good. Good.
Getting my master's. And so I was like, all right, got this good education, got this, good experience. I'm ready to rock. And what I found is that, okay, took me a while to get a job. That
Mm-hmm.
part, could have used a little help on
Uh-huh.
that one part.
I know the feeling. Same thing when I finished my master's. It was like I couldn't get a job and there was no support for that. So
Exactly.
yeah.
So that was one piece of support, but then the other was, okay, I got the job,
Mm-hmm.
and then starting, it was like, go
Yeah.
on.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Good luck.
yes,
Figure
go
it out.
on.
Yeah.
Yes, you got it. So there was no support beyond them teaching me the EHR they were using at that hospital specifically.
Sure.
It was different than the last hospital I worked at. Um, maybe I shadowed someone for a half a day.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And there were other supportive persons there because I did work in an inpatient setting. So for me, that, worked better, but there was no I would say structured support.
Sure.
I'm a person, I'm going to ask questions, I'm going to get to what I need to the best of my ability, but there was no structured support. And so what I found myself doing is really figuring out a lot on my own.
Right.
I found myself having to create things on my own because they just didn't have it.
Right.
So I was like, okay, let me get these resources together. Like, let me create my own templates for interviewing patients, because whatever you guys are using here is it doesn't flow that well.
It's not right.
Right. It's not hitting. So let me, create something of my own. Let me make sure I'm tapping into things, because it's, I'm really lost here. And there was another psych nurse practitioner who actually I went to school with, and she started with me at that same time, and she felt the same way. So I was like, okay, it's not just me.
Right.
We're both we were in working on two different teams, but we were trying our best to help each other. But, there was like this gap of education and support. And though I'll just say it, I'll pat myself on the back, I think I did well in the position. I think I could have done better.
Sure.
In the position if I had more support that would have led to more confidence. And of course, that then leads to better patient outcomes.
Absolutely.
All those things.
Absolutely. And before we get into speaking more about what you've done with your previous experiences and turning that into a business model that actually helped others in a similar situation, I just want to piggyback on what you said about not having any support when you enter into practice, because it's not just for mental health nurse practitioners.
Right.
It's for every nurse at every level.
Yeah.
When you leave academia and enter into practice, there is a major gap, major gap in transitioning into practice. There's just not enough support.
Right.
And that's largely due to organizations not investing in having really robust education teams. I'm just going to put it out there like that. I am a director of education. Right.
Yes.
I'm currently holding a full-time position as director of education and staff development. I can speak with confidence in my many years as a nurse educator that many organizations, not every single one. So for those of you out there saying, oh no, we have an amazing,
not mine.
Great. Kudos for you. But look at your neighbors. Look at your competition. I bet you they don't have the same level of support that you may have at your organization. And I became a nurse educator because I wasn't supported. So very much like you decided to put tools in place to support others like yourself, I did the same thing and pivoted and became a nurse educator so I could be a better support to those coming behind me.
Yes.
So this is a major plague to the nursing profession. It always has been. It will continue to be unless we really start beefing up the resources to put education, at the primary front of patient care. Like education and training has to be a priority.
Right. Yes.
Because too often we're being called to fix mistakes that could have been prevented had those individuals had the support and or additional training. It's very easy for leadership to say, oh, you're a registered nurse, you have a license, you should know better.
Right.
But we know differently. We know that you don't learn everything in school. And even though you learn something in theory, putting into practice is a whole nother situation.
Yeah. People are not textbooks.
Correct.
So a lot of they're not textbooks. So
And
it never looks like it either. Never looks like a textbook.
Correct. Because we have patient preference. We have family involvement. We have different cultures, different personalities. There's so many different layers of providing care to humans that go beyond just passing a medication, doing a dressing change, and making sure the patient's eyes and nose are accurate. It's much more deep than that. And so it requires a lot of support. I spend at least 10 to 12 hours a day supporting staff, and I'm one person.
Right. Yeah.
So
you need a whole team.
Imagine if I had a team of maybe 6 where we could split up the facility and each take, a portion of the facility, 20%. And then we would make much more impact if that was possible. But of course, we have to talk to the people who pay the bills.
Right.
So that's my little tangent about that. That's my little piggyback onto what you did. And so congratulations, truly, because that's so important
thank you.
to identify that you're going to make more impact if you share what you learned along the way with others who are in a similar situation. And you should make lots of money doing it as well. You really should. You should profit and be able to make a nice living for you and your family because you're setting others up for success. And I don't know anyone who has a sane mind who wouldn't spend thousands of dollars to have that support, because I certainly would.
So, right. Yeah.
And
people, yeah, people are, and they're realizing it. And I think from the same levels that you just said, they saw it in nursing. And some people who I've talked to have said that, like, they saw it in their nursing transition and they were like, no, I'm going to this next transition. I don't want that. I don't want that. And so they're willing to invest outside of their, organization.
Correct. Because sometimes the schools just don't have enough resources to get you what you need. And your organization that you work for certainly doesn't have the resources to get you what you need. So sometimes you need to resource, outsiders such as yourself who have the products and services in place to be that extra support to see them to success, which is awesome.
Yes.
That's what I do. It's the same thing I do with my business and helping people pass the NCLEX and all of the writing and things I do. It's because had they had those resources available to them, they wouldn't be in the position they're in. So awesome. Kudos to you. So let's talk about that. How long have you been doing this to support nurse practitioners in your specialty?
Yeah. So how long I've really been doing it.
Yeah.
Not as a business, but
even before you started a business, you've been doing it.
Yeah, I graduated in 2011. Started my first position at the early January 2012, and then I started doing it probably August 2012.
Nice. You realized right away.
Sorry, August 2012. Like it was starting to happen, not on a big scale, but just little things. Somebody was like, "Oh yeah, Kirby, I saw you were using something to do that interview. Can I see what you got?" And that's kind of where it started. Like, and it was that was my own template I created, and just sharing it with other people. Like, yeah, I use this, and I find it, much easier than what's in the EHR to just get my thoughts, together.
Nice. Perfect. And then how long have you been running your business, and what is your business called?
Yeah, so it is called the PMHNP Source. I'm the source for psych nurse practitioners, and I have been running the actual business, according to the IRS, since 2023,
Nice.
early this year. So at the beginning of this year, and I started off with doing individual sessions, just trying to get I've talked about earlier, I've been a psych nurse practitioner for 12 years. And so I understand that some experience are similar, but some are not.
Sure.
And I between those 12 years, I do understand that. So I wanted to do those individual sessions and start with individual, just to see what kind of things were still the same, what kind of challenges were new that I heard a lot of different people, speaking to. And now I'm coming, and now I have a program that launches, it's already out, but it doesn't officially start until October 12th.
Okay.
But I am currently taking registrants for that program, and it's a 10-week mentorship program for new psych NPs with 0 to 3 years experience, because I know 3 years was the start of COVID. So there are some persons who did start and they have 3 years. And so you're like, Kirby, that's not really new, but that was a rough, that was a rough period. So I said, I want to expand it to 3 years. So this, for those people who might be in that position,
that makes a lot of sense.
There's still a place for you, because I know that maybe you were in some unfavorable situations in the beginning.
Right. That actually makes a lot of sense. And that's something that, all of us should be taking into consideration when we're hiring new nurses. Even if we have nurses coming to us with 2 or 3 years of experience, we have to understand that there's going to be major gaps in their clinical competence, their critical thinking capacity. They come to us with a lot of bad habits, unfortunately, because of how traumatic everything was. And we're in survival mode the whole time, rather than, really elevating their critical thinking and making ideal choices. They were making choices that they probably didn't want to make, but they had no other choice. So these are all considerations that we need to think about when we're trying to bring people back to the basics of high quality nursing care, whether it's at the medical level or at the bedside, nursing level. So absolutely. So how can people get in touch with you, Kirby?
Yeah. So the 2 best ways to get in touch with me are through LinkedIn, which
Mhm.
Kirby Williams, you'll find me. Or you can get in touch with me through Instagram, and I am at your PMHNP mentor on Instagram. And that is the greatest way to get in touch with me. Both places have my link tree that is connected to all the things,
Mhm.
all the things to my website and everything and what I'm currently offering. So whenever you are listening to this podcast, even if a cohort has passed,
Mhm.
it'll be information on there about, okay, the next one starts at this time, and this is when it'll be, so you can prepare yourself for the next one if that's something that interests you.
Awesome. Very good. And I'll make sure that I have all of the ways that people can connect with you in the show notes of this episode. And I just want to ask you, Kirby, are you part of the National Nurses in Business Association?
Someone that I believe asked me this as well.
Oh,
Farah.
oh yeah, Farah Laurent.
Yeah.
And your answer was not yet,
And the
right?
answer, right, it was not yet. And I really wanted to go to that conference. Did you go? I can't.
Of course, I go every year.
Every year, I really
I am
wanted to go.
there every year.
It wasn't in my cards to go, but I do want to make it something that I do this coming year, 2024. I
Yeah.
just got to find out where it is.
It's
Yes.
in Orlando.
Okay.
And it's in July.
Great flight. Okay.
So you're on the East Coast, right? Where are you at?
Right. Yep. The straight flight. July's my birthday.
Where are you located?
I'm in Virginia.
You're in Virginia. What part?
Richmond.
Okay. I'm in New York City. So, we're on the same side of the world.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's an easy flight for you. Yeah, we'll be in Orlando in July this year. So I'm gonna make it a dual trip, Disney and and NBA. Might as well. We're down there, right?
Since you're there.
But look, even before going to the conference, you should become a member. Just go online, become a member. There's tremendous amount of resources on there. And since, this episode talked about entrepreneurship, we talked about leveraging your skills and talents to create a business, to serve others, to find more career alignment and satisfaction. That's exactly what the National Nurses in Business Association does. It is a army of nurses, some who have been in business for decades, making millions of dollars a year, up to folks like you and me who are relatively on the newer side of business, where we are not making millions perhaps, but we're still making a good chunk of money by helping other folks. And, it is enough to supplement your income, but why stop there when we can continue to impact and help as many people as possible? So an NBA is really an amazing resource. I highly recommend that you join that organization. So awesome. Just waiting.
Yes.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you for, yes. Now that a second person has said it.
Good. I hope that I see you in the member directory very soon. And so Kirby, hey, you're in the network. I'm so glad that we had an opportunity to connect. I'm so glad that you came on the Nursing Strategies for Success podcast to share everything that you're doing to support the profession, to improve outcomes, and to really help folks align with their passion and their purpose, because that's what it's all about. Right?
Yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you so much for having me and reaching out and for us connecting. I'm so happy that we did this.
My pleasure. I look forward to seeing you in Orlando.
Yes, you will.
All right, Kirby. Thanks so much for being on the show, and we'll talk soon. Take care.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
And that concludes episode 10 of season 3 of the Nursing Strategies for Success podcast with this episode's guest, Kirby Williams. We hope that everything that we shared for you in this episode will help you to fuel and start your professional journey as a primary mental health nurse practitioner with the assistance of Kirby Williams. Every way to connect with Kirby will be in the show notes of this episode. And as always, if you have any questions about anything that we shared, please feel free to visit thenursespeak.com/contact and get in touch with me. I would love to have a conversation with you. So until next episode, take care, be well, and remember that nurses can do anything.